Through the history, the women have a lot of problems with the valid of her rights. Also, we're going to talk about a lot of historic moments that talk about of the situation in the past years. We're going to see the movements and all the rights that valid Martin Luther King in these years. The first question of these problems is why the women have all these problems, and we're going to find a lot of this video. Let's going to see the first of one of the most important moments of the history of the rights of the women. The first of all is for finally get the right of the vote in 1920. Then let's talk about of how Martin Luther King helped on and also intervened on all these movements and make that the black people and also the women's, including the black women's, have a lot of movement and upgrades on her rights. Also to have a iconic and also the same society for everyone.
Many women dreamed together with Martin Luther King in the African American civil rights movement. Although it's an undertask for a documentary filmmaker to try to find the word woman in the battle of civil rights, it was in August 1963 that Martin Luther King spoke of the dream of many women under the inkwell that gave shape to the speech, "I Have a Dream." There were many women behind this dream. Among them, a black woman, a humble street seamstress, a woman who made history when she said no to being forced to give the boss seat to a white man in 1955. It was this action that ignited the initial flame of what would soon become the boss boycott. A leader was born, and from 1956, it was declared the racial segregation in public transportation was against the American Constitution. It was no longer necessary to say no. And this is just one example of how one woman influenced fluid African American women's desire for freedom.
Martin Luther King's speech was not only the heart and emotional mainstay of the March on Washington, but proof of the transformative power and magic of men's words. 50 years later, it remains a speech capable of moving. 50 years later, people to tears. School children recite the most famous phrases, and musicians use them. 50 years later, those words, "I have a dream," have become the symbol of King's committed to freedom, social justice, and non-violence, and have inspired activists from Tiananmen Square to Soweto. It inspires immigrants and especially young dreamers to continue the fight for their rights at time when they say they feel under attack by segregationist police, just as they did in the 1960 years old.